WorkHorse WrestleTalk.
Dan, do you know when you're playing Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening?
No.
Which I know is one of your fave games. It's one of my. It's actually, I think it's probably my favorite Zelda game as well. And you're in the Catfish Ma temple, and you're just like, man, I'm struggling to get around some of these things. And then it hits you. It's like, oh, do you know what I need to do?
No.
Get the hook shot.
Even my references are better than that. Everyone here knows what it is. I'm sure I'm alone in being confused right now.
I was gonna say, I think the live chat in about 20 seconds time when they catch up with the stream. We'll
Do it
think
again.
That was
Get my what?
The hook shot is the item that you get in there.
Oh, right.
And so I was trying to make a hook joke, and also he's getting a shot, or he wants a shot at the world title.
Is that what you've been doing all afternoon?
No, I've been filling out 3 count for tomorrow's record. But anyway, look, it said, what is Luke on about? Perfect. Welcome to the WrestleTalk podcast review of AEW Collision. I'm Luke Owen, DAD. That is the Professor Dan Layton. I'm back, everyone.
We haven't done a podcast together in a while. Luke's been on a holiday for a well-deserved rest for a period of time. The oil needs to be, the WD-40 needs to be on there.
I'm a squeaky wheel right at the moment.
We'll get there.
I need some oil all over me. I need to be baby oiled up out the wazoo. Also, you and I have not done a Collision review in quite some time as well.
All between Deadline and the New Year and then all the rest, and then them not doing Collision a couple of times. Here we are.
Yeah, we're back. People thought we'd cancelled the Collision review.
Just loads going on.
It was just circumstances, but we're back with the Collision review. Welcome to the WrestleTalk podcast. Please do press the subscribe button if you haven't already and you've somehow made it this far. Give us a little thumbs up as well, and leave a comment down below with what you thought of this episode. If you're watching live, join in the live chat that really is popping off about my great joke. Yep, Luke, no.
You getting it?
No, that is one of the worst ones you've ever done.
No.
I really thought people would just appreciate it because I said a thing that people remember from the past, and that's usually
that's your whole gimmick.
Look, if I've learned anything from Family Guy, that's all you need to do to write a joke.
Do you know, I watched The Sound of Music over the holidays.
Brag.
For the first time ever, and now I understand half the jokes in Family Guy. I'd never known it before, but yeah.
And if you want your thoughts or statements read out on the air, WrestleTalk.com/support will read out all of them above the $5 amount. But let's kick things off today to talk about... this was a good episode of Collision.
Yeah, it was.
I think this is your template good episode of Collision, which is a few squash matches, a couple of longer matches in terms of title stuff, your one women's match. And the one episode we didn't actually get to do because you were unwell and I was the only one in the office was the one that actually had two women's matches on it. And I was so disgusted with it. I was like, I'm not reviewing it. But we had
Tony was like, if he's not even going to review it, I'm not going to bother putting it on.
But we had our one customary women's match and a banging main event.
Yeah.
Like that,
with,
I feel...
With FCR in it. This is Collision 101.
It's template Collision.
Yeah.
But I don't want to call this episode Template Collision or Great Main Events because I feel like that is, putting a bit of Ribena into the sea and expecting it to taste fruity. I'm not really sending out
a new one.
a huge message with that or a great talking point or anything. But there was something on this show that genuinely did make me sit up and go
interesting.
I'm off Twitter now.
Great, welcome.
I'm just off it. It's not only just a toxic place. I'm not having fun on there. So I'm deleted the app. I'm not on there anymore. So I've had to go on occasionally to check my DMs and stuff because Steve from Going in Raw was asking about something, and I'm setting some stuff in for Survival Series Thunderdome edition. But broadly, I'm off Twitter. So I hadn't seen any reactions to the show. That's the one thing I've really learned about getting off social media is I now don't know what happens on wrestling shows until I watch them. So usually with Collision, I've kind of got this broad idea of what happens on the show on the Sunday. So when I come in to watch it on the Monday, I know. And usually I just know everything that happens on Collision, and then I just know when I'm watching it, and I just sort of get to experience it kind of secondhand, I suppose, in a way. But this was an episode I literally went in with no knowledge of anything. I'd seen a WrestleTalk.com headline, which was Samoa Joe's next opponent revealed. And I was like, oh, that'll be interesting. I'll find out who that is. And blow me down. it's Hook.
Yeah.
And I was genuinely shocked and taken aback by it. Like, Hook appears on screen. I'm like, okay, Hook cuts a promo. Sure, FTW, yeah. I'm sure he'll be calling out, I don't know, some lower level dude. What, Samoa Joe? And I was like, oh, rad. I'm in two minds about it, which I'll get onto in a moment. But first off, I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. Hook.
I'm similar to the Twitter thing. I've sort of tried to move away from certain areas of social media and enjoy the things that I enjoy. And I dip my toe in now and again. Like today I was in the office, so I opened it up to just have a little look and see, what's going on. The Globes were on last night, so I was getting my camp award show fix kind of thing. Oppenheimer! But... yeah, I hadn't seen any of the Hook thing either on social media. So even dipping in, I didn't really see any of those sort of takes. Probably because at this point it's Monday. The show was a couple of days ago. Things work really quickly. But yeah, it is an interesting one where I kind of had a response to it and then moved on. And then when I saw that was going to be our lead, that's when I started to think about it more and start thinking more about, okay, well, what impacts does that have? What do I feel from it? And I do think there can be a bit of a hive mind online. So it's nice actually to have a show where you do go into it and just have your honest, all I can do is bring you my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I think the point you made there is kind of where I'm also sort of sat with it a little bit. Like for me, like this was like the one thing at the end of the episode, I was like, yeah, I kind of want to talk about Hook going for the title. But I think your point is kind of what makes that so interesting is you heard that and then you moved on. Yeah. Because it's not like Hook's not been on TV. You know, he won on the pay-per-view. He has been in a feud with Wheeler Yuta over the FTW Championship. And he is someone who has just sort of been in this sort of lower card position in AEW, but fans have been clamoring for more from Hook. Because Hook has this, like, to use an NXT-ism, intangible quality that is just like, oh, he's just got the kind of sort of star presence about him. Like, he's cool and he's different.
He's handsome. He's got a great look. He's got a good energy about him. Even the format of this promo, I really like.
Yeah, he just feels different to everyone else on a roster. A roster that does feel like when no one really feels like they're the same character. You know, that sort of criticism that people used to have about WWE 10 years ago was like, well, everyone just feels like the same person. Everyone cuts promos the same way. Like, Hook feels different to everyone on the roster. But at the same time, well, okay, so we've been clamoring for more stuff from Hook. I want to see Hook on TV more. I want to see Hook get into some big storylines. I want to see Hook move up the rankings in this men's division somewhat. So it then is quite interesting that I'm watching this. I'm like, oh, wow, he's going for the world title. And my first thought was like, it's a bit soon.
Yeah, I agree.
But you know what I mean? Like, as a fan, I'm there going like, I want more for Hook. Like, Tempest had this amazing fantasy booking thing in when Hook first debuted, where it's like he should win the world title, like because his point was you'll never get an opportunity like this again, where a guy who in like one of his first ever matches on TV is the most talked about thing. When Hook debuted on that episode of Rampage, that's when Tempest and Pete were reviewing is sort of still in the lockdown era. That is one of the most watched Rampage reviews we'd ever done, outside of like CM Punk. His big wrestling return. Yeah. Because it was just this like, oh man, this Hook guy's cool. And everyone was like talking about Hook. And so Tempest made the point, like, put the world title on him. Like, because, I mean, what'd be the worst that could happen? And it'd be a really interesting idea. Yeah. But like that, I think that part has massively moved off of the boil. Yeah. So that's why I mean, I'm in two minds. I'm both excited that Hook is going, he's laying out his shot for the world title. I'm like, that's a really cool mini feud for Samoa Joe. But at the same time, my other half of my brain is like, I mean, it feels like it's a bit soon to just throw Hook into this position because he's just been like doing these lower card things with Jungle Boy and Wheeler Yuta and tagging with RVD on ECW Philadelphia shows. And also, does this feel like a big program for Samoa Joe to be doing even as a mini feud, considering that there's the Devil stuff and Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland and Jay White, what's going on with MJF? It feels like there's these huge stories, and then there's Samoa Joe facing Hook. So it's both great, but also like it doesn't feel like it's the big first feud that Joe should have as world champion. See what I mean?
No, completely. I think to say it at the beginning, I think the likeliest of outcomes is this is Joe's match for Battle of the Belts.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah,
and they're just going to have a match. It's probably that we could talk about like how the match would go. I would argue that you could. Joe has the talent to allow Hook to get some licks in and still look like Samoa Joe. Like I did see one comment when I was looking around various different social medias and seeing opinions. Their comment was, "I wouldn't expect Hook to beat Samoa Joe if he brought a machine gun into the ring," like, which is kind of funny but also accurate. Like it's Samoa Joe, he's brand new world champion. He's gonna hopefully gonna have an amazing run with this belt. I don't think anyone's expecting Hook to take it off him, but he could still at least showcase why. To your point, he is the kind of that kind of like massive draw at the beginning of Rampage. I do think in a world, I think my issue was that in a world where there are 96 belts, there are a lot of belts in this company for a group of men who don't wear any trousers, but there's a lot of options for him, like Orange Cassidy. He already has an established storyline with Orange Cassidy. I think for him, the first step, I think he could be a future world champion, with development and continued, like as I said, his look is great, his style is great. I think the promo was great. Eventually you could get him there. It's just not right now. I don't think anyone thinks it's right now.
No.
That said, Brock Lesnar, who within his first 6 months was champion. So there's an argument that, put the world title on him immediately kind of thing. It's an interesting thing you could do at that point. And like, you can always, it doesn't have to be long between the moment you think of them in that context and the moment they get it, if you do it right and if you just pull the trigger in the right way.
That's it. I don't think you're comparing Hook to, or saying that they are on a similar trajectory of Hook and Lesnar.
No.
I won't say you were suggesting that, but I agree with you. And I think what this more feels like, and I think this is a good thing for a world champion to have, are these matches. So I think back to when Hangman was champion. He had this Dynamite match with Dante Martin for the world title. I think it was Dante Martin. And it was awesome. It was so good. And me and Ollie said on that Dynamite review, was like, this is what you should be doing with Hangman Page as world champion. Just having these awesome matches on TV with lower level guys that he can beat. And it's not like, it's not damaging to the person to beat them because you were beaten by the world champion. And it didn't diminish Hangman Page in any sense. If anything, it's actually just trying to elevate the people that you're facing. And I think that's what you're trying to do with Hook here. Is like, let's just push him into this thing. You're right. I don't think anyone's going to go into this being like, well, Hook might have a chance here. Like, it's not even the Sami Zayn. It's that 1% chance.
Yeah, no.
It's not even like that. But you can go in there. Joe can just have an awesome match with Hook. And at the end of it, you're like, oh, that Hook kid, that was great. What a great showing for Hook. And you think of him in a slightly higher regard than you do. And that's kind of, it's a great use of Samoa Joe. So I think the way to look at it and to placate that, oh, this doesn't feel like a big first feud for Samoa Joe is, as you point out, it's not a feud. It's more likely a Battle of the Belts match or like a Collision main event or a Dynamite main event or something, or even just, it doesn't have to be the main event, just a match on Dynamite. That is, oh yeah, that's a really good match for Samoa Joe. Like, shows it's a good win for Samoa Joe as world champion. And in the process, elevate someone up that next level and hopefully propels them into something down the line.
There's a way to look strong in defeat that I think I know sometimes people hate it. Well, this is a positive comparison I'm trying to make, but sometimes people hate whatever. But when Jey Uso had his match for the World Championship on Raw, it was one of those things where I sort of saw it as he's really good, but he's realized that when you go for the World Championship, you need to up yourself. You need to go to the next level. Like when some teams from the Championship end up in the Premier League, they might have been on top of the Championship. Well, they're now at the bottom of the Premier League, and it's a whole different ball game. You need to get yourself ready. It's sort of the same thing here. There's no reason that Hook can't go into this match and get some licks in, but ultimately he's not good enough. But that does show that he's stepped his game up in this match enough that when he does go after a TNT title or a international title, that he's actually got it. Like, that he's been through that experience, he's learned from it, and this is where he's ready to showcase what he has got as a champion. Because I'm sorry, it's a 90s reference, but the FTW title is garbage. It means nothing.
Well, it's unrecognized.
Yeah. So, but like, it's been this case where Hook has been almost just there for a while, I think. He had a match at All In, and good for him, and arguably that match is what caused shockwaves all over, but he just happened to be there.
Yeah, he's not the talked about thing.
No, but imagine Hook's just like, oh, don't look at me, I was just involved. But he was the one put through the real glass. So like, he's got an aura, he's got something, but he's kind of just been there. This could be a real opportunity to like set him up and get him going, kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree.
And especially I do want to talk about the actual substance of the promo itself, by which I mean the way it looked, the way it felt, the way it sounded. This and the Serena promo, or the package that I thought were both really effective in what they managed to get across and looked a bit different. And rather than heading backstage with Renee or Lexi or whatever, or doing a bit in the ring with Tony, which have their spaces, and there should be this level of diversity of production and showcase people in their way. He's got this you can have the idea that the camera crew did just catch up with him. I can conceivably in my head make the leap to go, oh, the camera crew were like, well, hang on, Hook is looking brooding out there. Should we go see if we can get anything from him? And he might say no, but he might say yes. And in this case, he said yes and delivered a promo against, oh, wait, he's thinking about Samoa Joe. Cool. It was effective. It looked great. It had this great energy and this great aura that adds a bit to his character that makes him stand out from someone else.
The Jey Uso comparison you made there, I think, is an apt one. Because when Jey was going for Seth Rollins in the world title, I don't think anyone looked at that and it was like, oh, that's Seth Rollins' next feud.
Right.
That was Seth Rollins' next world title match. And I think that's kind of what we're looking at here with Hook. This is not Samoa Joe's first feud. And that's the thing, that's what I'm talking about, that other half of my brain where I was sort of in two minds. My first mind here was like, oh, that's exciting. My second mind is, a feud? But yeah, it's not really a feud. This is just a match. It could be. I might be completely wrong on that one, but I get the impression that this is more just going to be a match for the world title designed to elevate Hook somewhat and springboard into whatever the next storyline you're looking to do with Hook is. Perhaps it is revisiting that Orange Cassidy thing that you were mentioning earlier, revisiting that tag run that they were doing. And what does that mean? But I really, the key to this is that it was the thing I was thinking the most about at the end of the show, and it was a cracking main event of this show as well. I loved the FTR House of Black match. It was so great. But at the end of it, I was like, Hook, man, this I'm so curious. What does this mean for Hook? This So yeah, I thought this was very good. And to your point, God, it was cool. It's filmed cool. He looks cool.
Yeah, just the other side of that coin though is also Joe, who, thinking about it, brand new world champ, needs to establish what his world championship reign looks like. He's been a world champ elsewhere, been a top of the card champ elsewhere as well.
TNA.
That part. So it's an opportunity for him to show what his world championship looks like after we've spent over a year with Max.
Yeah.
Or as you say, with the Hangman stuff, every champ should show that their championship reign is going to be different than the last. It's not just I'm holding a belt where it's a prop.
Yeah.
It's this is our opportunity as well to see what Samoa Joe as champion is going to look like. So it doesn't matter, but it matters. Do you know? It's that kind of match.
I mean, we've already done my 3-count predictions, as well as my 2024 wild and wacky predictions, but perhaps a more sensible prediction because 3-count is just a little silly comedy show where I just try to say silly things. I think this might be the year where we're going to see the most world champions in AEW.
So the title will change a lot more.
Yeah, I think, usually it is just, maybe it changes once in a year. Obviously, 2021 or 2022 is a bad example of this because you had lots of interim champions.
Yeah.
And I don't really, but even then it was just, Moxley, well, it was Hangman, Punk, Mox, and MJF. And obviously Punk again. In all of that and Mox. But it was a bit of a confusing thing. I think this year we're going to see possibly 3 world champions. I could certainly see Swerve winning the belt at some point this year, and I could certainly see Will winning the belts at some point this year. I don't know if they're going to... I would love to see Swerve get the year-long run, some of the other world champions have had previously. Kenny had that year-long run, and Max had a year-long run. But I don't foresee... I feel like this is going to be a year where we're going to see more world champions.
In this era of wrestling, long reigns appear to be de rigueur. They seem to be the thing. People and there is a lot to be said for a long reign. It gives an opportunity for the champ to look incredibly strong, to make that change matter, to make it worth it. The other side of that coin is a title change adds a level of unpredictability, a level of making everybody seem like the guy kind of thing. At the same time, I think of the best year in WWE's history being 2000, and that belt went bang, 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 a whole bunch. Different writers, different era, different time, but and also different approach to pro wrestling. I spoke about this at World's End. There's no right way to approach pro wrestling, but AEW has its approach, and it appears to not be one of constant swerve title change situations. No pun intended. But yeah, there's certainly something to be said for having a year where we actually do have a showcase of, here are the people on this level. Yeah. And when you are bringing in a talent on the level of Will Ospreay, you don't need to, like with a Hook, heat him up with an international run.
Because it's Will Ospreay.
He's already hot.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah.
But anyway, let's see what you think of this. I wonder if we should do a poll of just going to gauge an excitement level. Can we do a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle? Mm-hmm. Like just as a 3 options. Like how excited are you for Hook challenging for the world title? Just want to gauge a sort of like, general vibe.
I would put myself in the middle because I wouldn't say it like makes me go, ooh, but I'll watch it. You know? Like
that right there. That is a perfectly mid, like, I'm not saying mid, but that's a thumbs in the middle reaction to it. We're just like, oh, that's cool. I'll see what happens.
Certainly not negative.
No, exactly. Because thumbs down would be like, oh no, what? That's stupid. That's bad booking. Diddly dee. Yeah. And like thumbs up is like, hell yeah, give me more Hook. So let's see what people think on that one. But Dante Kennedy has been a member for 9 months in a row. Said, finally caught you guys at the start. I think Hook is an okay choice, but I can't really think of someone else I'd want to see him face. It's sad but true. I wonder if I can't think of someone else. I want to see Joe. Yeah, face Joe, I guess.
Yes, the him in that is pronouns pal, but yeah, it's that's Joe, and that's the thing. I think it's this early stage where we have 2-3 months till Revolution. When is Revolution? At the end of March or beginning?
Beginning of March.
So it's 2 months. 2 months to Revolution. So you don't need a match right now. Like you don't need a feud right now, especially when we've got some. As you said earlier, some plates spinning. It's time to set up. You got a few loose ends, and actually, I'd love to. We'll talk about them when they show up on the show. But I need to know what you thought about the Devil reveal and all the rest of that stuff. But with as evidence throughout the show, there are a lot of loose ends that need sort of tying up, or they've rather presented themselves with a bit of a smorgasbord of options. So before they start really getting into this is where we're going with Revolution. We need a,
EJO says, G'day, EW. Hook needs to retire the FTW Championship now that there are 8 singles belts in AEW. Can we please eliminate 3 of them? I am not a crackpot.
I have strong opinions about the belt situation, and they will come up during the show. But yeah, I think there is... the FTW title specifically is one where it's like, it was cool because it was his dad's thing, and it's cool to give him... an attitude, but I don't think we need it. I don't think he needs. I think he's outgrown it.
I think he's outgrown it.
And it's time for him to move on from just being his dad.
Yep.
Or his dad's son.
I agree. I mean, it's funny, me and Ollie did a Dynamite review show when they introduced the International Championship, which was at that point called the All Atlantic Championship. And we did a show there that was called Too Many Belts. Mm-hmm. And we got a lot of flack from that, being like, "Whoa, like there's not that many belts. There's way more belts in this company now." Though when back in the day, we were like, "There's too many belts in this company."
Yeah, especially because they're doing this like solid partnership with NJPW that their belts are there as well.
Yeah, there's the Ring of Honor belt.
And then there's a Ring of Honor belt, and Ring of Honor is not just something where now and again a Ring of Honor person will pop up. They're like a regular part of all of the shows. And I know
the Undisputed Kingdom.
Yeah, and I know the comparison is often that like they have Sean Ross Sapp says this a lot. They have a similar amount of belts to WWE, but like the difference there is when they stick to it, which they don't. The brand split would indicate there is a top title, a mid-card title, a tag title, and a women's title.
That's it. Yeah.
So it's each show has that. Whereas this one, because there is no firm brand split. We have all of these belts kind of, every match is for a belt or for a champ at a belt. And it's like, I see, and wasn't Tony say recently his opinion, and I can see why it is this, is that a belt makes things more like... Yeah,
it's an opinion I don't agree with.
I don't either, but, that's his choice, and it's his company. So, like, but it's one of those things where I think there can be too many. And so you can afford to get rid of the ones that quite literally don't mean anything.
Exactly, yeah. I think the Ring of Honor stuff is kind of the one that's muddied the waters the most, which obviously then bleeds into the Triple Crown Championship, which isn't really the Triple Crown Championship, it's the Continental Championship.
We'll get there.
But and that's, it's sort of like I don't agree with Tony that it's that belts make things feel important. Like story and character makes things feel important. Like I always remember the Jericho Michaels feud, where they took the belt off Punk, and because they were like, well, the Michaels Jericho feud's the hottest thing, so like, we should put the world title on that. It's like, well, if it's that hot, it didn't need the world title. Like, that just shows you that you didn't need, but you felt that, oh, it's hot, we should put the world title in it. But actually, it was hot without it. And you can be a hot feud without the world title. Hangman and Swerve was a feud without the world title in it, or without any titles in it, and it was one of the best feuds in AEW last year.
The specter of a championship can often be the thing as well. It's you know, it doesn't have to directly be involved for me to watch FTR and House of Black and think, well, these are two tag teams who could.
Yeah, like that's just had a different stipulation around it. If FTR lose, they have to rescind their families or whatever it was and become members of the House of Black. Like, you put other stipulations on there to make people care about things. I think the second that you make the argument that you need a title belt to make it feel important, that's when titles feel like props.
Yes.
And oftentimes titles do feel like props. This is like, you know, WWE had this problem many moons ago. It doesn't have that problem now because titles really do mean something. Some more so than others. But I think the titles do mean something. But back in the day, like 10 or so years ago, titles were just props.
Yeah.
Just, like, I mean, they were just belts that lads had.
Vince Russo is the one in WCW who kind of literally at one point stripped everybody of the belts and then gave himself the belt and all of that. Like, where his argument was very much that the belts are props.
Yeah. And Hogan used to make that argument as well. Like, when he was in charge of TNA, sorry to cut you off, like when he was in charge of TNA, he once did a promo. It was for this like unscripted show that they had that was on After Impact, where he was like, you guys walking around here with fake belts like they mean something. And it's like, you know, it doesn't really mean anything. I'm like, you had a fake belt for a long time, and you actually fought in politics to keep that fake belt on you. So, are they important or are they not?
Yeah. And I think that they are if used right, and it is cyclical. It is a thing where, like, if the belt doesn't feel important, you can heat it back up again. If it, you know, whatever, all the work that has been done by Gunther, for instance, to make the Intercontinental Championship feel like something will disappear if they don't do something with the way it's followed up. That's what I'm talking about with Max and Joe. Like, Max's world title reign had its own stamp. Joe's needs its own now. So when you look at all of these different things that you've got going on, and you've got a belt there which has FTW and Impact font and is a relic from the 90s and genuinely, like, doesn't mean anything, isn't recognized, isn't sanctioned, but isn't treated in a way where it feels like this renegade thing where anything goes, it doesn't need to be there, and he's outgrown it.
It's also it's unrecognized, but it's defended on shows, and they do recognize it. But you guys said, I actually think it'd be great if Hook got squashed and had a crisis with confidence, which leads him to growing as a character and realizing that he wasn't as ready as he thought he was. Also, after watching Skye Blue wrestle live, I can die happy. I think that first point there's quite an interesting one. I think there's sort of two ways to do that, really, isn't it? You did squash him. I also like the idea of him getting a really good match in with Joe. Blake Whitehouse here says, one thing a lot of people are forgetting about, Joe and Taz have a ton of history together in TNA as friends and mentors and apprentice. Joe has known Hook since he was a child. This has potential to be a more personal defense for Joe. That's an interesting point.
Well, this was the most personal defense for Joe, which is quite a statement, yeah.
Taz brings that up a lot. He did that a lot of World's End as well during that world title, talking about his history with Samoa Joe. He knows Joe better than a lot of people know Joe. So that's a very good point, Blake. And username here says, in the media scrum, Joe plugged his role in a WBD movie. Suicide Squad, maybe? I think that's The Game.
Which is the one where he's a monster.
King Shark.
Is that one?
Yeah, I think he's the
voice. Oh, wait.
No, you're thinking of Twisted Metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Suicide Squad, he's the Shark Man. Really?
Yeah, I think he is. I think he's King Shark.
The James Gunn one?
No, in the video game.
Oh, I see.
But he's in Twisted. He's the clown in Twisted Metal. A name escapes me now. I never play a lot of Twisted Metal. And I haven't seen the TV show either. Could Joe be champ to take the belt with him when he promotes this and woo WBD? That's an interesting thing, because I think it did get renewed for another series.
And also, the point of being a monopoly is you get to cross promote in this way. You can, like, when Disney promoted Fall Guy and it was given this thing, was it Fall? No, not Fall Guy.
Fallout.
No. The one that was like a Minecraft parody. It was hyped as what's his name was in it? Ryan Reynolds.
Free Guy.
Free Guy. Fall Guy is a movie with Ryan Gosling coming out this year. No, anyway, Free Guy, which was originally supposed to be this big, like, independent movie. It was a complete IP, whatever. Then Disney released it, and because Disney had it, they shoved in a bunch of references right at the end. And it was like this thing of, look at all the things we own, Ready Player One kind of thing. So WBD, you know, while them and AEW, it makes sense for them to cross promote in that way, I suppose. But also, did you see that Tony has started giving out AEW belts to people who win sports.
Has he really?
With side plates.
No.
Yeah,
it's a shrewd move.
I mean, this is what we've been saying. It's smart.
We were talking about this with the World Heavyweight Championship design, like, because I didn't particularly love it, but it was almost the perfect blend of what WWE want from a belt. Or it's almost like it felt like what did I say it was at the time? Like it was like a belt by committee.
Yeah.
Because it's the big the big gold belt that Triple H loves, but with the WWE branding on it, the WWE as a corporation love, because that's the thing that needs to be front and center.
Yeah.
Because if you give away fake ones of them to sports teams that have got the sports team stuff on the side, you need to have the WWE logo. They're big and massive. That's why the WWE, Roman Reigns' title is mostly logo. It's more logo than it is belts. Yeah. Because you want to have that front and center. So I think that's smart. If you're going to do an AEW thing with with sports teams,
and I think there was even
you need to have the AEW logo big.
There was a render of it, or at least a picture of it. I don't know how legitimate this was, that had the AEW logo sort of more prominent with a black outline, which to me made the belt look a bit uggo, but made the branding even stronger.
That's it.
So this idea that you're saying of that, as use it as a way to promote the movie, but then also promote themselves and then woo WBD and it be, it's brand awareness in a TV renewal year. It's really smart.
Yeah.
It's just that's not necessarily what we as wrestling fans, and specifically, I suppose, the AEW fans who see AEW as that counter-cultural move to the big bad corporation that is WWE, they'll sort of see that as almost a sour taste, but it's also kind of necessary. It's a really interesting era for this company, I think, this year.
Yeah, I mean, going into their 5th year, we've seen a huge change of, in personnel and stuff, and some people who were day oneers, who behind the scenes who are now out, and it is going to be almost a brand new company.
Yeah,
not a lot of companies can just keep hold of, everyone who was there from day one was still with that day one energy,
the renegade spirit.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I thought MJF's piece he wrote for the Players Tribune, I thought it was really interesting. Yeah, I thought it was a really, really good piece.
I said people didn't understand what I meant because I didn't really elucidate very well. I said it felt a bit cringe.
Yeah, you did.
But what I meant by that was you can't. I liked that. I loved the piece. It made me feel the way you can't be earnest without being a bit like cards on my table. I'm going to be earnest. It's going to be a bit cringe. When you're friends and you like say something to each other and it's like, yeah, but now I'm going to insult you because I've said something nice and you run away. Because you can't help it. That's what I loved the piece in its all of its earnestness.
Yeah.
And it wasn't afraid to just be like putting it out there and this is what this company means. And as a fan of wrestling, this company was important to so many of us, and it's going to be interesting to see where it goes this year as a result of all the changes that you've mentioned, all the contracts that are coming up, the fact that it is no longer this punk renegade underground thing. It's just the second major promotion, and the gulf between the two is still big.
Exactly, it's another multi-million-dollar company. This is we are now in a WWF versus WCW world where neither of them are the renegade upstarts, which WCW certainly presented themselves as, and then sort of took the first place for a while. Because they're both owned, they were owned by $1 billion corporation in Turner, and WWF was a multi-million-dollar corporation that then became a $1 billion corporation. Like ECW was the renegade upstart, but AEW ain't no ECW in terms of it's got good production for starters. I can hear what wrestlers are saying when they're doing promos and that. It's kind of almost TNA was the sort of that was a renegade upstart because that was a company that never turned profit. In all of their years of existence, just never turned profits.
It's just an interesting dynamic, and it's one that ultimately, if we can let go of, tribalism and what was it that Copeland was saying is commitment to 3 letters on a piece of paper or whatever. We can enjoy it all, kind of thing. It's just fascinating to see where it's going to go.
Well, anyway, let's get into the rest of this show. Please do continue voting in the poll, letting us know what you think of or this thought of this show as well as we go. Sting and Darby Allin took on the WorkHorsemen up first. This was in North Carolina.
Yeah,
it was certainly in the Carolinas. So Sting, Flair was there as well to get the big sort of woo.
Was he in Charlotte specifically? I think they were in
Are
Charlotte.
they in Charlotte?
Yeah. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
They were in Charlotte. You'll tell us if we're wrong.
And, this is here to be like, it was Sting's final match in the area. So it sort of serves two masters. It's there to be, it's Sting's final match in, let's say, Charlotte, because I think it was. And secondly, it's because they've got the match on Dynamite. Like, it's them versus the Don Callis family, Sting and Darby, that is. So you give them a win on TV, and they get to cut a promo later on. But yeah, it's fun stuff, and the crowd were like super into Sting.
Yes. I have a thought that I'll get into more when we do later about what we do with Sting going forward, because I think there's an opportunity to do something interesting and a bit fun. But this was a really nice opener that does what it's supposed to do. Also, big men doing moonsaults is the new Canadian Destroyer. Like, every single match we're going to see it, and I'm here for it.
Bronson Reed doing the tsunami,
Do you know what
and
I mean?
Ivar doing
a
the moonsault.
And once it was like, whoa, and now it's like, yeah.
They'll be doing like, I'll go to an indie show now, and I'll see them do that as the spot on the to set up the
ring the bell, ding ding ding. They both run to the other side. Whoever can do it first.
Just a confirmation. It is Charlotte.
Charlotte, North Carolina.
North Carolina. Also, shout out to the person I did miss your name. Where it was Sweet Tooth as the character that Samoa Joe played in Twisted Metal.
Perfect.
They then had a video package to put over the Don Callis family match on Dynamite. So, I mean, we might as well talk about it now, because later on in the show, Flair... I'd say Flair, Sting, and Darby Allin, but really Flair and Sting did promos while Darby Allin stood there having the time of his life.
Darby stood there looking like the kids in the audience who dress up as Darby. Do you know what I mean? Like, having a really fun time. Also, like, those kids, by the way, I don't know. I know that they're being Darby. I like Turtles. Every single time, it's that same child.
When Darby first debuted in AEW, that's what everyone said. It's like,
really?
It's like the Turtles kid grew up.
Yeah, it is that.
But yeah, they were cutting this promo to put over the match of Dynamite, and it was Sting essentially being like, "Hey, when I was here, I used to cut old school promos. So here's an old school promo," and he did an old school Sting promo, and it was like, it didn't miss a step. That was awesome. It was genuinely like, oh man, I can't wait for Dynamite now.
Look, for all of the Flair discourse that we've had a long time ago and is perfectly valid and needs to be had, I did get a kick out of it. It's the same thing against my better judgment. It's they're legends and pros. They've done this a long time. They know what they're doing. They just set up the camera, said go, and as long as you don't make any comments that we have to edit out that are tremendously uncomfortable, we can put it on the air and it will be effective. Here's a little pitch. Would we consider getting the tag titles on Darby and Sting?
Well, I mean, they were putting over quite heavily in this match, and have been now for a little while. They're undefeated as a tag team. Sting has never taken a loss in AEW. So the argument, I suppose, would be, is what do you want Sting's final match to be?
That part. And this is an interesting conversation, because... not to be 1997 Vince McMahon, but if you consider yourself a wrestling traditionalist, you're supposed to do the job on your way out. And there is no one more wrestling traditionalist, old school legend, does things the right way, elevates young stars in this way than Sting. However, is Sting, with his final match in this legendary venue for him, do we want to see him do a job? Do you know what I mean? Do you want to see him lose? Or does he get a bye because he's Sting? Do you know what I mean? It's that question that you need to ask. Personally, I would like to see them get the tag titles as quick as possible. I would have perhaps done it at Homecoming, where he made because they made this whole point of him making his return to Daly's place. When I started having this thought, I was like, it's a missed opportunity. Get the titles there, do a run with the titles. Darby can do most of the heavy lifting, and then they lose the belts at Revolution 2. I don't know, whoever the hell you want to make.
Let's just say Mo.
Who's Mo?
That's a Simpsons joke.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I forgot you don't watch The Simpsons.
Yeah. I'm only just getting Family Guy. It probably won't be Starks and Big Bill, but you could. If you wanted to keep, if Starks is sticking around and you want to take them up, who gets the win over Sting that ends Sting's career?
I mean, the thing we're all missing here, though, is that Sting's final match is against Flair. That's what we're looking at, which actually gives you what you want, which is Sting gets the win. In his final match.
I don't think I do want his win though.
You don't want.
I think I'd rather him.
You want to see Flair win.
I don't want to see Flair wrestle in the year 2024.
Dan Layton wants to see Ric Flair beat Sting in 2024.
I would very much like to be excluded from this narrative. No, I think it would be interesting. I don't want to see Flair wrestle in 2024. I don't want to see that match. interesting to see Flair. Well, no, you can't have Flair job Sting or swerve and turn on Sting in the final match for one last dirtiest play in the game.
I was going to say, you could have them win the tag belts and then Flair costs Sting the belts, and that's how you set up the Flair Sting match in Greensboro.
Don't give
where
me
you and I had our matches.
Don't make good pitches for Ric Flair. Stop it.
Also, I've been trying in my sort of 2-week break because the only Ric Flair impressions I can do are Stinger and the Consortium. It's like, was me. It's the only 2 things I can say in a Ric Flair voice. So I'm trying to can I say other things?
And if
it turns out I can't.
I don't mean to be rude, but you kind of can't say those in a Ric Flair voice either.
Oh, hush your mouth. That is a perfect Ric Flair stinger. Stinger. Anyway, up next for the Continental Championship, Trent versus Eddie Kingston. I think Ollie made this point on the Dynamite review, which I do agree with, is that the C2 was stacked with big names. And now Eddie Kingston's won it. He's sort of against Trent.
Yeah.
And that's nothing against Trent, because Trent's great.
Yep.
But
did a really good job in this match, by the way.
This match was awesome.
And to get an injury like that with a load of blood in your eye for half the match, to fight through that is actually really impressive. So
match was
good for Trent.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love this match. But it didn't feel like the big hot banging follow-up to the C2 that had Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley.
And that final match.
Oh, the final match at World's End and stuff. Also, I do have slight issue with the Continental Championship. Because he is, but the whole point of this was to be the modern-day American Triple Crown champion. So why not just have him announced as the modern-day Triple Crown champion?
Yeah.
Unless, of course, he is still just defending all 3 of these belts separately, in which case it is sort of a Triple Crown. He is a Triple Crown champion, but it's not a Triple Crown thingio. I just think that they muddied the water somewhat with the C2 here.
I have to defer to your great knowledge on this, because the Triple Crown Championship that it's pointing to, like the original AJPW one, was that 3 separate belts or one single belt that combined all 3 and then the other 2 went away?
It was 3 separate belts, but it then was just, you are the Triple Crown champion.
And would those belts be lost individually, or did they just all become the one belt?
Unfortunately, I'm unsure on
because I wasn't sure. I agree with you that don't get me wrong, it's a cool visual for someone to be holding a load of belts. Kenny Omega as the belt collector was sick, but also if everyone's doing it and it's a secondary title for 2 secondaries and one of them is whatever, it does muddy the water somewhat. I also think it was, if you're gonna have this many belts, I would like them at least to have their own personality, when like the hardcore belt would be defended, it's in the hardcore rules, so we know we're going to have a little silly hardcore match and that's going to be fun kind of thing. You have an opportunity with the C2 belt. Why wasn't this defended under C2 rules, where it's like a 20-minute time limit, not points and whatever, but they came out to a 60-minute time limit. So it's just a belt.
Yeah.
I kind of, for me, it's a little bit like Americans winning the FA Cup and then having them defend the FA Cup in the next match, even though it's a Premier League match, and then they've lost it, and then they've lost the FA Cup, and it's like, no, but that's not how the tournament system works. If this is going to be a belt that's defended rather than a Triple Crown statement, or you are the Continental Crown champion for the whole year, like the Owen or whatever, which those disappear 2 weeks after the tournament's finished, at least have its own identity. At least have it be something that's defended with its own rules that make it feel distinct and make it feel separate. And maybe having Eddie as your opportunity to have it as one where, they go a little bit harder, they fight a little bit more, there is a bit more blood. I'm not one to advocate for blood and guts in wrestling. I don't really love blood, but it did look cool in
that's I was about to say, like when Eddie chopped Trent right in the face and Trent came up with blood pouring down it, I then wrote rad.
Yeah, and it's like,
as I am a guy that's just like, I think blood makes wrestling better.
Yeah, I mean, the opposite side to that coin is like, you want to be safe in the ring. This was a complete accident. Eddie didn't, I'm sure, specifically try and break his nose, and was, I'm sure, very apologetic in the backstage area. But like, fighting in a strong style that brings up all the welts on your chest, and maybe you've got some battle scars to show it or whatever, creates an aura for that belt specifically. If we're gonna have this many belts, give them their own identities, and so that when they are challenging for that belt, you're like, oh, I'm excited about that match. That's going to be different to the international title.
Yes. I also agree with the point you made on the World's End review as well, which is that it does look like a Creator Wrestler belt.
It really does.
Yeah.
Occasionally I make good points. Not often.
We also had Sue at ringside here, which kind of made Trent's comeback feel a little bit more impactful. And he did a really, really good comeback in this with the blood pouring down his face. I popped massively for the back fist and brainbuster near fall as well. Because I think the crowd thought that was the final moment as well. So when Trent kicked out, Eddie just picked him up and hit another brainbuster for the win. Thought it was rad.
Yeah,
I thought this was a superb match.
It was. Oh, any issues come from the championship stuff, because the match itself was great.
Yeah. Tony Schiavone backstage spoke with Willow and Chris Statlander. I didn't take in a lot of what they said because I was massively distracted by the fact that Chris Statlander had a lizard on her shoulder.
Yeah, she did. For no discernible reason. Don't worry, though, because the entirety of this promo was 2024 is going to be my year. And that was it. This was not an effective segment.
Particularly because the following one of that is the Hook promo.
Yeah.
Which is like, really like it showed off him as a character, set up something massive. This accomplished a lot, this Hook promo. And I don't think the Statlander, they were further in the Stokely thing, but yeah. Commander and Brian Keith took on the Undisputed Kingdom for the ROH Tag Titles. It was a proving ground match, and I've written here the UK win, so
yeah, I've got the same.
Go us.
Yeah,
a good showing for Keith and Commander.
I think if I was doing a template of a match, this would be it. And I mean that in a complimentary way. It was the champs were in control, the challengers get a good comeback, then the champs remind us it was never in doubt. That was what it was. It was really fun. It was a good match, did really well. I'd like to hear your opinions on the Undisputed Kingdom now. Because you weren't even on Dynamite, so haven't since the reveal.
I mean, I can text. I can tell you exactly what I thought of the reveal because Ollie Davis messaged me as he was coming in to record his review, being like, "What did you think?" And I said to him,
Just got to scroll through all the gifs of Nigella Lawson that he sent.
He said to me, "What did you make of the main event reveal?" And I said, "It's basically what we thought it was going to be all along. So it's hard to criticize logical booking."
Yeah, I mean that's what it is.
That's exactly what it was. We all,
plus Wardlow.
Yeah, plus even Wardlow was someone we kind of figured was part of the group because of the tufty hair moment and a few people who'd been there live. They always said the people in the masks and the bodysuits
were the
people doing it. It was like the bloke that walked past me was for sure Wardlow. So I look at Endgame, like going into Endgame. I think we all knew that spoilers for Endgame. The final moment was going to be Iron Man snaps the fingers and they undo everything. And the final shot of the movie is Captain America. We don't know how, but Captain America ends up with Peggy. Like that was the two things I knew of that movie, having not seen the movie, were going to happen. And so when they happened, I was like, well, that's logical storytelling, and you did well with that. So going into we all thought it was going to be Adam Cole and the Kingdom. That was like when we did the first episode when they first attacked. It was like Adam Cole and the Kingdom makes sense. It's Adam Cole and the Kingdom. So it's hard to criticize logical storytelling.
I agree.
I don't think it's the most shocking reveal because it's the most logical one.
Yeah.
I think the more I've thought about this a lot over the past couple of weeks, though. Oh, certainly last week, I guess. Here's the one change I would make to this group. It's not Taven and Bennett and Roddy. It's the Young Bucks. It's Cole and the Bucks.
Interesting, yeah.
As the group perhaps with Wardlow. That would be my only change I would make because I think someone said it on the Dynamite review or someone messaged in about it. It might have been on the World's End review. I love the idea of Roddy not being a part of it and Roddy spending this whole time thinking, telling Adam that it's Max, only to find out that it was Adam all along. And then Roddy and Max have to tag together. I thought there's some really fun stuff you could have done with that. So that's the only change I think I would have made. And I think then you would have had like a genuine, oh man, I never considered the Bucks to be part of this.
Yeah.
And they've got history with Cole
It would make sense.
So it would make sense. They were the undisputed elite, when Cole first came in. That'd be the only change I would make. But as a group, I like them. I thought the opening, the promo they had on Dynamite was cool. I think the remix theme is very, very good. So thumbs up.
And then this here was good as well?
Yeah, thumbs up. I'm excited for it.
Cool.
And actually, particularly going off the Dynamite thing, I really, really liked the instantly Bullet Club Gold are coming after them. Because they were like, I love Jay White being like, look, I really like what you guys did to Max, but I didn't really like being collateral damage in this. So now I've got a problem with you.
Yeah.
And the Acclaimed having a problem as well. And it's feeling like, oh man, like there's this huge sort of faction warfare that's now going on, and we don't even know where Max fits into.
Well, I was going to say, given that his contract has expired and he's no longer on the roster page, they've got to find challengers somewhere.
Well, he's entry number 30 in the Rumble. That's all. So I like that, and we had that here with the Bullet Club Gold being interviewed, and to talk about the Devil and whatnot. And all of a sudden, the Acclaimed walk in. They're like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, the Acclaimed are like, we've got a common enemy now. And the way to get ahead in this place is to be a part of a big faction. So maybe we could join forces. You got Billy Gunn there with the, Colton and Austin. Mm-hmm. Austin at the end of this, Bullet Club walk off. And it's like, it does make sense. There's some really cool, moving pieces in here.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely one that raised my eyebrow a little bit at the end of this.
Adam Copeland came out for a promo saying that he's going to get an automatic rematch. I hate automatic rematches. Yeah. Always have, always will. So instead he's like, do you know what? I am still going to climb the ladder and show that I should be getting that another TNT title match with Christian Cage. So I'm laying out an open challenge. Anyone can come out and answer this. And out comes Maria Kanellis, who seemingly is unbothered by what her husband is doing with the Undisputed Kingdom. And she's there with Griff Garrison and Cole Carter, who I'm reliably informed are doing stuff in Ring of Honor.
It's like when Renee Paquette was on commentary while Dean Ambrose was being like, "Your country smells bad," and she's like, "I don't know what he's up to. We don't really talk about it when we get home and watch the telly together."
Also spot on Dean Ambrose impression.
Thank you so much.
Garrison, Maria didn't get anything, but Garrison cut a promo for himself. I liked Copeland's line of, "You're stepping from below sea level to Mount Everest."
I did not, and I'm going to tell you why. Adam Copeland is the biggest heel in the company, and I will die on this hill, because not only does he come, he's having a big run in WWE. Meanwhile, Christian's having the run of his life over in AEW. So he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be part of that fun. Can I come and play? I've always been the one who made you whatever." And then he just sort of jumps in and is, "I'll take it." And then that's big heel. He then says in this promo, "I just work harder." Excuse me? Christian Cage has had to work. He's done everything you did, but backwards and in heels, and not had it handed to him because Vince McMahon wanted to put a blue dot on his face. He's had to work so hard. He's having the run of his life because of how hard he works. Yeah, right. He insults everyone's dead fathers and hits people in the head with concertos and all that stuff. But hey, is it not making Nick Wayne's life a bit better? Except for the bit where he went through a flaming table / kind of didn't go through a flaming table.
That was a rough old bump.
It was a rough old bump, wasn't it? And then I'll do an open challenge, and out comes this young guy. And then he belittles the guy who's answered the open challenge. What a massive heel Adam Copeland is.
I don't think he belittled
I think he's
him.
the biggest heel in the company.
I don't think
And I will not hear otherwise.
I agree with your other points. Someone got real mad at me for saying that as well.
Yeah?
I was like, what is the biggest heel? He's the heel in this group, and you can't change my mind. Someone got real mad at me for suggesting that as well, being like, this, that. Anyway.
Well, of course, everything we say is deadly serious.
Well, of course. I didn't think that he belittled him in this, because he was like, "You remind me of a young me. This is the sort of thing I would have done." And then when he's like, "But you are stepping from below sea level. You are stepping up to a huge plate here, Mr. Garrison." Not that, Mr. Garrison. We've gone from Family to The Simpsons to South Park. I'm all about the late 90s cartoons.
Oh, we've all known it.
Garrison slaps him across the face, and Copeland's like, "Which makes me like you even more now." And they had a little match, much like the Sting and Darby tag match. Oh, sorry, the ROH tag match you were talking about a moment ago. This is a template match of the Edge. Sorry, Copeland was never in danger, but he gave Garrison enough to make it look like he didn't just squash him, and he won in the end. And then he also gave Cole Carter a spear afterwards as well. Everyone goes home happy. Crowd popped massively for Copeland.
Yeah, I think the only bit it didn't. I think the post-match bit was quite unnecessary, but I loved the spinning elbow that countered the spear. I thought that was really nice. I thought, it was a good match.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. We then had that Flair and Sting promo. Skye Blue took on Kiera Hogan, which Skye Blue won.
Mm-hmm. There was a lot of talk of sort of the women's division gathering momentum, and I bloody hope so. And I appreciate, Deonna Purrazzo gets her debut, all the conversations about Mercedes Moné, which is hilarious at this stage. What's she going to do? And the match did, I thought, get a good amount of time. I haven't timed it. It might have been as it always was, but it felt like a decent amount of time. I thought They both, the crowd seemed really into it, which was really nice. I also thought they both looked good in the match. It was quite nice to see. If Tony's New Year's resolution is to dedicate a little bit more energy to the women's division, that is massively welcome. And I think there's a case to be made at some point for tag belts. Like Willow and Stat would be a good tag team. Sky Blue and Julia would be a good tag team. You know, if they at some point they'll take the TBS title away. Again, I know that we've had a whole conversation about there being too many belts, but this is a division that's underserved. It's not the same.
Look, in principle, I agree. I'm not on board for it. There's only one match a week.
No, that part. I agree with that.
Because like with the fact you got two belts, you don't have time to feature, because you only have one match a show. You can't further that many storylines.
No, I agree.
But
then in that case, my counter to that is to your point made earlier, which was very correct, which is feuds that aren't about a title. Then. Yeah. More of those.
Yeah. No, I agree.
The women's division is strong, good. That's why I like the Mariah May and Toni Storm doesn't seem to be about a belt at the moment. It probably will be at some point, but you know.
I'm excited for Deonna Purrazzo coming in. I think it's really good. I'm with Ollie on this one, unfortunately, which is that but I've been excited about a lot of people coming in.
Yes.
I was excited about Athena coming in. You know, I was excited about Taya Valkyrie coming in. So I've been down this road before. The fact that they're hyping up the women's division so much makes me think the Monet is coming in,
or at least at the very very least, it's part of them trying to woo her.
Yeah. The fact that they are doing such a, like you said on commentary, they were talking about it a lot, makes me feel like Monet is coming in. And you know, if the reports are to be believed, the thing that stopped Monet going back to WWE was money, because she was asking for an astronomical amount that WWE were not willing to agree to, because she would have been the highest paid person there, and that sort of upsets the apple cart somewhat.
Because then you set a precedent with a lot of Becky Lynch's contract is coming up.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I know it's a massively rich company. It's the same thing, but you can't just throw money at everything, because it does set a precedent. But also on the other hand, you should, as a wrestler, you should be asking for the best.
Absolutely. So if she is, demanding astronomical money, and Tony is going to pay, we don't know if he's paying the exact same amount she was asking WWE for, bearing in mind the WWE schedule would have been a hell of a lot more than the AEW one is, because you also do house shows within a lot of that. There's a lot more touring that's in a lot of that as well. We don't know what the cut of merchandise is, and then this, that, and the other. But if they are going to be paying a lot for Monet, they are going to need to put more focus on the women's division, because you need as a return on investment. If you're spending a lot of money, you need to see that money come back.
Yeah.
And I think that them talking about the women's division a lot is sort of makes me think that Monet is coming in, which means she'll be number 30 in the Royal Rumble. Speaking of women who are coming back,
you got Liv Morgan on the outside being like, you.
Speaking of women coming back, Serena Deeb got a video promo. I don't know if this was the same one they showed at World's End. It was a similar vibe to the one at World's End, at the very least. But it was very, very cool.
I love this promo, although I don't appreciate my gimmicks being stolen left, right, and center. At one point, she called herself the Professor, and I'm not here for it.
She has done that for a while.
Don't care.
I think she might have done it before you did.
I don't understand.
Claudio Castagnoli took on Andrew Everett. This was here really to hype up the fact that Claudio will be facing Hangman Page on Dynamite. Big thumbs up from me. I'm well up for that.
Yeah.
Claudio won.
Little squash
match. I thought him catching him with the uppercuts, he was doing a big flip-de-dee, was quite funny.
They didn't really get it, did they? You didn't really nail it.
Didn't get all of it.
No.
Didn't get all of it.
But I like Claudio, so there you go.
Lexi interviewed Ricky and Big Bill about the Sex Gods, and they announced that their tag title match is happening at Battle of the Belts, which really feels like a way to just bury that match.
Get it out of the way.
Just get it out of the way on a show that no one watches.
And then get the belts on Sting and Darby.
Thank you. So that Ric Flair can cost them, and you can build that's Ric Flair's Sting match. And then we have, speaking of tag teams, our main event, which was the House of Black versus FTR. The gimmick of this being, if FTR lost, they would have to renounce their families and join the House of Black. So they had Dax's wife and child at ringside. They're also in, Dax's home area and stuff like that. So that added a great deal of drama to this match. Also, a lot of heels jaw-jacking to...
Well, it does if you care about families and children. I was just like... if anything, for me, it made the House of Black faces.
I'm not here to reveal the text messages that you and I sent back to one of each other. But you did text me yesterday with a twist in the tail.
Yeah, I did. I was spending time with my girlfriend's family, and it was our turn to try and make her nephew go down for a nap. So it's like, watch things, but I was watching SmackDown, And I
ain't changing the channel, kid.
No, I taught him to acknowledge Roman Reigns, and it was a real thrill. I can't tell you. But no, I wanted to see this daughter have to watch her father get his head caved in by a steel chair from House of Black. That's what I wanted.
Look, over the Christmas period, my daughter sat on my lap and attempted to sing "Let It Go."
Boo!
Well, and it was one of the most delightful things I've ever been a part of. Anywho, she's a terrible singing voice.
Well, and I was going to say, it's a hard song to sing at the best of times, let alone when you're like 2.
You know, she was really trying to hit those high notes.
Yeah.
I was like, kid.
Idina Menzel could
Idina Menzel struggles. So
yeah.
Like, what are you thinking here? No, it was awesome. But this was just great wrestling.
It really was,
this
Lou.
Was so good. Like, this was just FTR are awesome.
Oh.
The House of Black are awesome. So they just had awesome in the ring. Like, they were just like, here's all the awesome for you. And they were just like, I loved these 4 men working together. I particularly loved like the sort of mini rivalry within this between Cash and Buddy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, these are 2 teams that are feuding with each other. But there seems to be an extra element in there. Cash is like, I hate him in particular. So I want to fight him the most. And Buddy Matthews would be like, he's the one that annoys me the most. I want to fight him the most. So they used to just really go at each other a lot. And I thought that was really, really great. They had an amazing moment with the Power and Glory superplex and splash. Dax went to get the pin. Buddy Matthews broke that up by doing a jumping high knee to Cash to knock him into the pin. Great stuff. The crowd was super into all of this. Cash ignored the FTR rule of no flips, just fists, and he did a dive and it cost him dearly.
Yeah.
There was so many like great false finishes to this where I thought, we're leading into the finish. The thing I popped for most in all of this, though, the thing that got me so excited, because I was really, really getting into this, Brody King comes down and you're like, the big monster Brody King having that great run in the C2. Here he comes, the big burly Brody King. Who makes the save? But Daniel Garcia, choosing wrestling over the sports entertainment spooky goths. And him, like, you know, that's furthering on from things that happened within the C2. So that's building off from, you know, that's characters evolving, characters learning. That's exactly what I wanted from the C2. I loved this so much. And Daniel Garcia celebrating with the House of Black afterwards. Big thumbs up from me. Loved this.
Yeah, I when the match sort of kicked off and I realized it was a good half hour left of the show, I was like, well, settle down, because we're about to get some good tag team action from my Collision, which is really what I'm after.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought it was exactly what I wanted from it. I thought it was brilliant. It should come to no surprise to anybody. You know, if Dax is going to spend half his life talking about his daughter and how he does this for his family, then we might as well use them in a storyline at some point. So there we go. All that was you know, against my religion, full fun. Nigel McGuinness at one point saying, "Man, I'm in the company of a couple of nerds, aren't I?" was legitimately hilarious, because he's the world champion wrestler. He's the one who's been there and done that. Meanwhile, you got Kevin and Tony, who are like so legit within the industry, talking about stuff that happened in 1986 and whatever, and it's like, couple of marks they really are, aren't they? It kind of has that is literally the definition of what a mark is.
They were talking about, you know, like the Andersons, and like, you know, like Tully
Sting in the
Magnum TA's backstage. He won the United States Championship and about it. So I was like, yeah, Nigel Gibbs like, couple of nerds.
Yeah, and it's like, shut up and watch the match. Like, what God? But like, that was all part of what made it fun for me. And then Danny Garcia is, well, he's kind of the guy for 2024, isn't he? You know, did you see the promo that Tony Khan cut? Promo, maybe giving it the excited babble that Tony Khan likes to do into a microphone, basically being like, you're going to see a lot of this guy in 2024, and it's stuff like this that is the reason why his work in the C2 was really great. As you say, continuing the idea, aligning with himself with the real wrestlers kind of thing. Great stuff. Great Collision main event.
Yeah,
that is
really good.
Really what this was for me.
Yeah. So it was Garcia making the save, standing up for pro wrestling, and Dax got a quick roll-up, reversing a roll-up from Matthews. And they even pointed out, it's like, perhaps Matthews was just slightly too excitable within the match. He overextended himself on the bridge that he got in the roll-up, which allowed Dax to reverse it and get a roll-up of his own. Thought it was a really great finish. Afterwards, House of Black attacked and then laid them out. They held a steel chair up to Dax's head in front of his family, and he gave him the black mass into that chair. Cool visual to end this show. And then, like, Julia Hart just appears at ringside and gives a 10-bell salute. It's a genuinely quite chilling,
it was creepy
ending.
And like, she's been doing her own thing for a little while. She's obviously still House of Black, you know, coded, but she's been off doing her own thing while the C2's been going on, and, you know, all the other stuff. So it was one of those reminders that this is the unit that we've got, and this is the. It was a really great way to close off the show. I thought.
Loved it. I thought it was a really, really great, and it ended off what I thought was a very, very good episode of Collision. Like this is, I kind of said that it's the template Collision episode, which is that it's a 4 out of 5 show, because you had a cracking main event, probably featuring FTR, and you had Eddie Kingston and Trent's awesome match as well, and then some really good squash matches that further characters and stories. Like that is the template for, and you've won women's match. That's your template Collision. Yeah, a really, really fun show. Yeah, like it's not gonna, like, I wouldn't recommend anyone run out and watch all of it, but certainly watch that main event, and I'd watch the Eddie match if you get time. I think there's an element where Collision does often feel like a show that happens on Saturday night that you can watch and not really massively focus on, and it is rare that we get one where I'm like, you want to go and seek out that match. But when they do, they are usually really solid matches, and it's most of them feature FTR. So Well, let us know what you thought. We've got the poll up now where you can get your votes in for what you thought of this episode of Collision, while we shout out some very special people over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Bunch of cool stuff coming this month on patreon.com/WrestleTalk. This coming Friday is the next episode of Survival Series Thunderdome Edition. We've got a great reception to our first one, which is us doing Survival Series, but we get to invite people who don't usually get to appear on the channel much these days. So like Stephen Larson from Going in Raw and SP3 from True Heel Heat. And this episode's also going to have Ace Trainer Liam, who was on a couple of episodes of TLC with us. And Dan Layton becoming the first person to compete in both the live and Thunderdome editions of Survival Series. Just trying to break my records, mate. I've got quotas to fill. So that's coming out this Friday. It's a really, really fun episode. Steve in particular has a tremendous time. I'll just say that. So yeah, go and check that. That's out this Friday. And then I can also confirm later on this month, WrestleTalk Extra, I've got the winner of what it is going to be. It was a 2-horse race between Rumble 08 and Rumble 2014. And Rumble 2014 is the winner. Interesting. Well, that's a fascinating one to talk about. Isn't it just? Yeah, to go in depth with. We'll be reviewing WWE Royal Rumble 2014. That'll be at the end of this month. And it's the crowd show. Yeah. This is the show that the crowd just turned on this show. Rey Mysterio's sort of last sort of hurrah being booed out of the building. It's because people were so into Daniel Bryan and the Wyatts. The Cena Orton match that WWE presenting as like, this is the match that the fans want to see, and the fans crap all over that match because no one wanted to see that match in 2014. No one wanted to see that match in 2009, but we got it 1,000 times. Yeah. 2014, 5 years later, people were done seeing that. And then you have that Rumble that Danielson is not in. Never scheduled to be in. So poor old Rey Mysterio and poor Dave Bautista, who's come back at a time that he really doesn't need to. Absolutely, his career. And like it was the template that they had from The Rock coming back. You know, the couple of years prior, which is you bring back the legend, you have them appear at the Rot, and so they had to then, and it's Punk, it's the Punk Rumble, it's Punk's final Rumble asterisk until he came back, and it's him leaving that has this ripple effect that leads into Daniel Bryan being part of the main event of WrestleMania 30. He was not supposed to be part of that WrestleMania main event. It was supposed to be him versus Sheamus and Punk versus Triple H. But Triple H then needed a big match at Mania because Punk walked out. And so he was like, well, I'll face the hottest guy in the company then. And I will put Bryan on top instead. And not to get too meta about it, but that is kind of the genesis of this, like all that we have going, It is a big, big show. Also, I know you wanted to give you some other thoughts on there, but for the 2014 Rumble, it's the Rumble where we all liked Roman. Yeah, we did, yeah. Oh, man, did we want to see Roman win that Rumble? And he's going through, I was like, yeah, maybe that Roman Reigns fella is the guy. Yeah. Maybe it isn't this Seth Rollins or Dean Ambrose one. I think it is this Roman Reigns. Cut to 1 year later. Yeah. Any other thoughts on 2014? I mean, it's going to be so interesting to go back to it. Yeah, no, it's just that it's like when I've been thinking a lot about this era of wrestling commentary and where we're at with the industry and all the Punk stuff and all the whatever, and just how really where did it begin, and the What Culture guys who really lifted everything, and the format of the
that has led to this incredible industry that we have, let alone that the wrestling industry itself has. And really, you can kind of pinpoint the genesis of it around this time. You know, when we start being incredibly vocal about the things that we really want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, such an interesting crowd at that show. I'm really looking forward to talking about that. So that'll be out later this month. Patreon.com/WrestleTalk. You get a whole bunch of stuff by signing up there. And if you're one of our $25 and above Patreon Pledgehammers, you get your name read out in the show like these fine folks. The Eco Warrior Brian.
Loved by Charles Giovanna Passar.
Chris Hellfire Brimstone.
Infinite Crisis Chris Jenkins.
Chris the Cypriot Sensation Petro.
All-Star Chuck Turner.
Daniel Sweet Mexican Chocolate Ibarra.
A tall, handsome guy who has goals in life, Delonta Blaine.
Dr. Hook, Nolan Evans.
All ego Ethan Wiley.
Send me to heaven, Evan Reich.
And no limp biscuits here, Fred
Wurst. That is your Hall of Fame shout out for January the 8th, 2024. That's also 10 years since that Royal Rumble. So that'd be even more nice to be doing that one. I'm very excited to rewatch that show. So let's get into the rest of your remaining chats. We also have the poll results for Hook challenging for the world title. Thumbs up 55%, with the middle being 35 and the rest thumbs down.
Overwhelmingly positive for that.
Overwhelmingly positive, yeah. Farquhar Force here says the AGPW Triple Crown has 3 physical belts defended as a singles title, which is what I thought it was. Made the same point on Dynamite, but Pete and Ollie misunderstood my point. Hopefully Hook has a 1-2-3 Kid Brett style match. That's a good comparison, yeah. With 3 women's title matches, you need at least 5 matches per week.
Yeah, I do see the point in that. I am interested though with the 3 physical belts defended as a single title. At any point, do they become individual belts again? That's my thing.
I don't think they do, because I was reading the Observer on Friday and they were talking about them defending the Triple Crown Championship.
Right. So it's like, well, in that case, there aren't 3 titles. There's 1 title. Let's put those away and just focus on this one
which
title.
is why I think it's a problem calling it the Continental Championship, because it's not. It's the Triple Crown, which is supposed to be the Triple Crown Championship.
Yeah.
But I guess that sort of... That
and if this is supposed to push Eddie into the next level, well, he's still the Ring of Honor World Championship, which keeps him down a level. You know, there's
and he's a mid-card guy in New Japan,
right?
A mid-card champion over in New Japan. Mo's Gang here says, great episode this past weekend. Eddie retaining, I hoped, was inevitable. But still a great match on both sides. The tag with Sting and Darby felt like a perfect runtime. Got to shout out Daniel Garcia. I think he's brilliant. Good matches all round.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. When I'm talking about getting the titles on Sting and Darby, please hold on comments on the end. I don't want them to have like loads of bangers. I don't even know how long we have it happen or when it gets put on them, but because this was everything it needed to be. Sting really did about 5 things in it, but you know, it's kind of an interesting wrinkle in the final ride of Sting.
Yeah, and we've talked about this a lot, but like Sting doing this little retirement tour thing is what I saw with Jushin Thunder Liger during his retirement tour, which was just I got to watch him play the hits. Yeah, and that's kind of what you want to go out there and just go out there and play the hits. An unknown username. It is a Streamlabs error, so please do let our moderators know and they can update the sheet with what your name is. But it said the biggest revelation on Collision was that Boots the Lizard wants the title. Hook does too, but who cares? The show this week felt like SmackDown, when SmackDown was just a recap show of Raw. That Boots did what Pharaoh did and Larry didn't.
I feel like I remember that era of SmackDown. I think that's a bit mean to this episode of Collision, but I do see what you're saying. But then again, you've got to hype the next one. It's a big one, Homecoming. You know? No,
I agree. And I get what this person is getting at, which was, because there was a period of time when SmackDown was just the drizzling S's of it. It was just a Raw recap. But it was also a show that had a world champion.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was a bad time to be a WWE fan. So I don't think it is that bad, but I do get what you mean, is that we were talking about this on the way over here. Collision isn't a show that has big moments that further big storylines. That's always safe for Dynamite. So by that very definition, it sort of does feel like a B show. If anything, it almost feels like Rampage Plus at times. But it's Rampage Plus that has great wrestling on it. So, which is what SmackDown in that era didn't have.
Yeah.
So yeah. Brett here says, Collision was great. FTR versus House of Black was amazing. I watched worst matches of 2023, and Luke is right. Jeff Jarrett versus Jeff Hardy did not deserve to be on that list. Yes, it was bad, but it was a badly fun match. I was laughing my ass off, and it was great fun. Thank you very much. I saw a number of people have a go at me for saying like, oh, you like that match, but you didn't like the Zombies match. It's like, can you not see the difference between one of those matches being an objectively boring match that's bad and stupid,
and the other one having zombies in it,
and the other one being a very, very silly match that knows it's a very silly match and they're having fun with it?
You just like bad wrestling. I don't know what.
If I liked bad wrestling, I like the Zombies match as well, Dan. Although you can go watch Worst Match Ever, and I had a hell of a fun time watching that match.
There you go, you see?
It was basically find the NXT 2.0 main eventer.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's Grayson Waller.
Like when Braun Strowman and Becky Lynch are part of the, what was it, Adam Rose's little gang?
The Rosebuds.
Yeah, the Rosebuds.
Yeah. Oh, look, is that Bron Breakker? It is Bron Breakker.
We've missed a Will Campbell.
Oh, I do apologise. I will update the...
I've got it. Did we miss it?
No, I did do that one.
I don't think you did.
Oh, no, I didn't, yeah.
I've got it, if you've got
the match with Trent is just another notch in the belt for Eddie, who's had a fantastic past 12 months. He started by pinning Jay White clean, as you like, in February for the strong title, to the G1, to the ROH title, to the C2, and now this hot dog.
Yeah, it keeps going, doesn't it?
Oh, superb. Booking like a mark. Sounds like this podcast. Says, with the rebranding of TNA, is there any chance Tony Khan put the belt on Samoa Joe to set up an appearance at Hard to Kill? In the past, Tony did have a relationship with Impact. It's not just fantasy booking. This is booking like a mark.
Oh, I see. Getting yourself over there at the end with your little catchphrase.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
It'd be smart for Impact.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that would be great for TNA.
That part even.
And also, like, considering there's these sort of like mad theories at the moment that WWE are looking to sort of like spread their wings and they hey, maybe we do want to like work with some other people, and AEW just like no, they all work with us now,
gobbling up everything.
Yeah, gobbling up everything. Yeah. Like, I'm not a monopoly, I'm just working with people.
It's just they're trading relationships. It's not just... I also really enjoy how excited everybody got about Triple H's special announcement on a Thursday, which ended up just being the Money in the Bank is going to be in Toronto, which is fun and about the level of an announcement that Triple H was going to make on a show like the preview special. But it did have Tony Khan making an announcement.
Huge. Triple H, they'd be like, I think this Tony guy has got some good ideas about how to promote announcements.
I would love if in all of this, Tony Khan and Triple H just text each other every now and again being like, shall we have fun with them? Shall we tease them?
Either that. Do you know what I meant?
I'd love it if they were just working us the whole time.
Here's my other pitch. Here's my other big brain theory on that. Triple H did that as a rib on Tony Khan, but no one has spotted that. Yeah. They're just seeing it as like, oh, Triple H had a really naff announcement. Like, no, guys, it was supposed to be a joke about Tony Khan's major announcement. No, I'm in on the joke.
I'm funny.
I'm in on the joke with you guys.
Yeah. Well, he did another one. I'll figure it out later. Save for a non-AEW podcast.
Speaking of, Blake here says, this might be a big ask, but is there any chance you can do a review of Hard to Kill next Monday instead of Collision, considering this will be TNA's big relaunch? They've got a stacked card, and I feel like a lot of people will be talking about it. Well, your second point there is what's going to define that.
Yeah.
So when we did Deadline, that was because no one was really talking about Collision, but a lot of people were talking about Deadline. You know, Punk was on the show with Michaels, and there was that really weird interaction that they had, and people really liked the Iron Survivor because, God, those matches were
awesome. My God, they were brilliant.
Particularly that men's one was so great. So a lot of buzz. So we were like, you know what? Let's do this. Let's see what happens. If it comes out, it's just like not a lot of people talking about Collision because it's just another good Collision show, but there's a load of talking points out of TNA. Then I'd be well up for reviewing it.
Yeah, I mean it's not to belabor a point, but it's a fun time to be a wrestling fan because there's so much going on, and Hard to Kill and TNA's relaunch is one of them. So if you want it, talk about it.
And Mozgang here is our last one. Also want to ask Luke to give us another series of Worst Match Ever. I thoroughly enjoyed all the episodes, as I myself am a big lover of bad wrestling. Keep up the great content, guys. Excited for 2024. Reigns from Kingston and Samoa Joe. Well, watch this space because we have had conversations about bringing back Worst Match Ever. It's slightly different form. We'll probably do it on partsFUNknown as well. I think that's a better home for it. So we have had talks, we have had conversations. There's plans in the pipeline of what we would like to do with bringing Worst Match Ever back because we'd really like to bring it back. So watch this space is what I would say. But that's it. That's it for this show. Thank you so much. We will be back tomorrow, myself and Dan Layton, reviewing WWE Raw.
So I find out what's up.
Yeah, please do. Punk's on the show, I believe.
Punk is there.
Yep. Part-time Punk. Having a pop at the Rock for doing it. And then he's doing it himself.
He had to wrestle
Dominic Mysterio,
so he's probably a bit knackered. You know, that's a hardcore match.
But apparently got really blown up
Well, yeah, because you haven't wrestled in ages.
Wrestled in ages? Then he wrestled 3 months before.
He hasn't wrestled since 2014. What are you talking about? Ed got You Still Got a Chance at, that's the other side of the rib, which I enjoy. Yeah. So we've got Punk coming back. Cody's going to go head to head with Shinsuke Nakamura. Let's get that out of the way.
Is that a match or is it just?
I think this is the match.
Cool. I didn't see Raw last week.
So last week on Raw, they came out and they had a segment, which it should have been the match because that segment did not make me more excited for the promo. But that's a Raw review. We go back and watch it. Chance and Carter defend the women's tag team titles against Piper Niven and Chelsea Green. And Tommaso Ciampa battles Finn Balor in a high-stakes matchup.
A high-stakes matchup?
I don't know if that's the name of the stipulation or if that's just what they're going with.
Cool.
What are the stakes, I wonder? We'll find out tomorrow, I suppose.
Well, there you go. That's tomorrow's Raw. That's what we're going to be reviewing here on the WrestleTalk podcast channel. Same bat time, same bat channel. And then on Thursday, we're reviewing AEW Dynamite. And then, on Saturday, it'll be the SmackDown review. And then next Monday, we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll be reviewing Collision or we'll be doing TNA Hard to Kill. The choice is yours, I guess, in a way. Until then, I've been Luca and D. Oh, yeah, good point.
We didn't do that last week.
And actually does say here's a big reminder here.
They're doing their best. The mods are doing their best to make us do our job right.
Yeah, like even Annika here says, don't forget the poll. We have a thumbs up, 66%.
Yeah.
With 29% saying thumbs it in the middle and 4% saying thumbs down.
There you go. That does it.
Also a point here, so we need Tempest reviewing Brett versus Vince. Oof, Brett versus Vince has always been on the long list for worst match because that match is a stinker. But anyway, that's what we've got time for on the show. Please do press the subscribe button if you made this far and you haven't already. Give us a little thumbs up. We had a real big bump of subscribers over the Christmas period as well, so thank you very much. We are now under like 2,000 or so from hitting our 85 target.
Sick.
So yeah, come and join us for that. That'll be a great time. We're trying to hit 85,000 subscribers. So once we do, we'll be doing a 10-hour marathon stream. Probably watching Royal Rumble, so get involved. And leave a comment down below and all that good jazz. I've been Luca and DAD. That has been the Professor Dan Layton. We'll see you tomorrow. Jam that jam.